Every guy watches porn. It's no big deal. It's not a drug. It doesn't cause any health problems. Not hurting anyone. This is time for me. It feels so fucking good. It's not hurting my wife. I'll quit tomorrow. Those are some of the things that I've told myself when I've watched porn. But deep down, I felt ashamed. I felt powerless. I felt at the mercy of this impulse. And I felt unsure how to quit. And I didn't know what would be on the other side of quitting. I didn't know how I would fill that void. So today we're going to talk to you about why porn is so destructive, why you need to get rid of porn from your life. Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. I'm here with my hosts, Chuck and Faisal. We're going to talk about this serious topic. Chuck, have you ever been addicted to porn?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, when you think about the term addiction means essentially that you have no control over something, right? And we can be addicted to a lot of different things. Coffee, cigarettes, alcohol. So addiction is a term that I use when you end up doing the thing that you don't want to do. So if I don't want to overeat and I overeat, there's a good chance I'm addicted to food. And porn's no different. Porn is actually developed to create addiction because the people in the porn industry know that they want people coming back and got to get return customers. And so they make it to the point where it is addictive. And as guys, we are susceptible to that because we're very visual. And from an evolutionary standpoint, our drive is to have sex with as many women as possible so that our DNA has better possibility to be extended into future generations. Your brain, however, can't tell the difference between an image on the screen and a woman in real life. So there's a biological instinct to have sex with a lot of women. And additionally, I think that the addiction piece starts to be less about the porn and more about the shame that comes along with the porn. And that oftentimes, at least I think in my case, I was almost addicted to the shame. I needed the proof that I was a piece of shit. So yeah, I've had my struggles, man. It's been a lifelong thing. How about you, Faisal?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys went first, or because I was like, yeah, do I have to admit it too? It's such a shameful thing to put this on video and then put it on YouTube, and then everybody and your family, everybody can see. It's like, what, you watch porn? It's like, no, not me.
You and every other man.
Yeah. And there's a lot of cultural shame around it in my culture. Like, what? Sex is such a taboo thing. Mentioning or talking about sex is. Yes, I have been in periods where I've been addicted to porn and watched porn, consumed porn, and had no control over the fact that I wanted to, and it felt so good. And afterwards it felt, horrible. I just hated myself for it as well, despised myself for having this behavior. And again, like Ari was saying at the beginning, I rationalized it, saying, yeah, well, it's my time. It's good for me. It feels good. There was a lot of rationalizing coming in, but deep down, it didn't really help the shame aspect of it. And I was embarrassed of it. And it did impact my relationships. A lot of guys think, oh, it's just my own private thing. But yes, it does impact your relationship because I understand the fact that, like Chuck, you said, it's a primary evolutionary need for us to want to have sex. So it's not all designed for us to just, go towards sex. But yeah, the internet makes it much more easier and accessible to get that hit. So I did feel that it impacted my relationship because I didn't have that same passion, the oomph, and the desire to bring that sexual energy to my, to my relationship, because it was all exhausted from watching the porn. It was all, like the crescendo, the high was taken away. So constant, watching porn, it just made you flatline. It's like, for example, hungry stomach, when the stomach's hungry, it's out there to get the food. But if it's kept fed all the time, it doesn't have that passion, desire. It becomes lazy. And that's what I noticed, was that porn was making me sexually lazy, disinterested in it. And that was then, creating a gap.
And that's what porn is doing on a neurological level. It's hijacking our reward system. So we're needing more or more extreme stimulation over time, and we can't get that really from a partner. So we're kind of destroying the possibility for really connecting sexually with a partner when we are really using porn a lot.
Yeah. And like you said, we are getting that stimulation. We are getting that from porn, but also what we're not getting is, her moods. We're not getting disapproval, rejection. We have it accessible, and it's with a fantasy of someone that we want, and there's no other emotional baggage that comes with it.
Right. It's so much easier to not deal with another person.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but what are some of the problems that come up when you spend more time in fantasy and not with a real person? What have you found?
Well, one thing I know to be true, just also, like you were saying about the reward center, Patrick Carnes, who's kind of the father of the idea of sexual addiction, wrote a book years ago called Out of the Shadows. And he's done a lot of research and study around sexual addictions. And one of the things he had were these PET scans where he would show the brain as it would light up if it was watching porn, or a brain that would light up if it was doing cocaine. And you could overlay them on top of each other. So the idea was that sex porn is as addictive as cocaine, because it releases the same reward system. In fact, you can't get, that sex is the number one way where we get that dopamine hit, that dopamine release, that pleasure center in our brain. But what happens is, like you were saying, Ari, is that the more you do it, the less dopamine is there to actually release, because your brain hasn't had a chance to, restore that. And I think that porn is a cycle. This is what I found for me anyway. It would be like, I would act out. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. Never. This is the last time, And then a little while would go by, and then maybe I'd have a fight with my wife, or I'd have some, thing go on. And it's like, well, not so bad. Or I'd have these trigger points. It used to be, my wife would go out of town. It's like, my wife's going out of town. I can watch porn, And then you'd act out, and then you feel this shame cycle, this shame of like, I'm never going to do it again. And it just kind of kept looping back and forth. And it just became maddening, because I would make these vows to myself of like, I'm never going to do this again. I know this is bad. It's bad for me. But inevitably, at some point, there would be a trigger, and I would want to watch it again. So it is a legit addiction.
Yeah. So what I want to give people today is how do you get past it? How do you get rid of porn for the long term? Because for me, I'll be honest, that felt like impossible until I finally did it, and I needed coaching around it. That was, I needed a process, and I needed a vision for what was on the other side. And the vision was
Hopefully non-pornographic vision, right?
The vision was something that was a more mindful, connected sexuality. But that sounds very abstract and intellectual, and like, how do you get there? And there aren't simple tools for that. Porn is so simple. We're not taught how to be sexual beings. So how did you guys do it?
So I decided on 1st of Jan 2020, when, COVID is about to hit. Everybody else is going towards porn. So I decided with, a few of the guys to set up a men's group. And what we were going to do is we were going to do some, a lot of habitual work, habit work. And I had been doing habit work for a few years before. And what I noticed was that when you want to tackle something, as significant as porn, trying to tackle this head on, it's very unlikely. I tried this before, it didn't work. And most guys, will probably succeed for a week or 2 weeks, maybe a couple of months or something, but they'll revert back. And I didn't want to have that same cycle. So what I was doing was I was building small habits consistently every single day for many years. I started with a cold shower, then I started stacking on different habits. And what I realized was that when I had more self-control in those habits, then I can use that leverage to porn. And I made a commitment to myself. 1st of Jan 2020, never going to watch porn again. That was my commitment. And that's been my commitment. Even now, I haven't watched porn. And it was thankful for, one, I had accountability. So 4 of us guys just set up a group, and we would just, every week we'll say, I've done 7 days no porn, 6 days of, push-ups, or, 5 days of cold showers, or whatever it was. It wasn't perfect, but there were some habits that had to be non-negotiable. So there were some habits that had to be non-negotiable. So for example, my non-negotiable habits were, make your bed every single day. That's a really small task to do, but it just trained my brain to do the small task. Then no porn was going to be non-negotiable. So I used that. And then the biggest change was like, I was so determined to commit this. And by using small habits, gave me the leverage, gave me the muscle power to tackle the bigger ones.
So, you've given us sort of an idea of how you developed more self-control, and you did it through developing habits, and specifically habits that increased your willpower, increased your sense of self-control, and you did it with the support of other men. So you had that connection. But what's on the other side? Like, what is the great sex life beyond the porn world?
What I found was that, one, first of all, when you tell women that you don't watch porn, you stand out immediately, because the average guy watches porn, right? So that already is like firing off attraction for you, because it's not the average thing, and it takes a lot of self-control. So she always sees that there's a guy who is emotionally, mentally strong. And the second thing is that when you have this level of self-control, I don't mean to say, I'm perfect in this aspect of it. It's that when you have this level of self-control, you're not so desperate when you go out dating in the dating world. You have a lot more sexual restraint, and you're not trying to over-please, get over-sexual or over-sexualizes, and then ruining your chances. So for a guy who goes out, what I'm doing now is I'm enjoying the sexual foreplay, the whole, the buildup of sex and sexual energy a lot more, because before it'd be like you feel sexual and then it's quickly released. And it'd be like having really good food and then chugging it down. So rather than now, it's like the slow, you have the starters and you enjoy it. And what the gift it gave me was to be more present. It allowed me to feel more of life. And when you're feeling more of life, it gave her a chance to connect to those emotions feeling. So now she's with a guy who's, who can have more self-control. I remember there was one partner I was with, and we had a lot of sexual chemistry, but we didn't get intimate for over 6 months. And she said, I don't know how you're doing this. I said, look, I can do anything to you, but you can't, you can't touch me. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because I'm practicing self-control. I'm practicing sexual self-control. And I want to work on my sexual fractures, my sexual shame on this. I want to really work on this. And I had full communication in what I was doing. And it was a breath of fresh air for them as well, that experience.
How about you, Chuck? How did you get past porn, and what's on the other side for you?
Well, first, I think you have to understand that sexuality is a basic human need. All right, that the need for sex comes from the need to bond. The need to bond comes from our need as humans to be connected with another person. When I'm not connected with another person, the feeling I feel is loneliness. If I'm connected on an intimate level with somebody, then I feel safe, I feel important, I feel secure. We can plan our future together. We create a purpose bigger than ourselves. We're growing, we're changing, and it meets a lot of additional human needs that we have. Now, porn is just an illegitimate way to get a need met. So you need to feel connected, and it's much easier sometimes to connect, on the screen. Sort of what Faisal was saying was, food is also a need that we have. All right, but you can either eat healthy food, or you can go and you can eat junk food. Now, one is going to make you feel better than the other in the long term. One's going to give you immediate gratification, and one's going to give you long-term gratification. I started to look at sex, not look at porn, but look at sex. Because when you focus on porn and you're like, don't look at porn, don't look at porn, your brain doesn't understand it. It's just like going to look at porn. But if you focus on what is it that I want in sex and intimacy and connection. And so I really started focusing on that. Now, the difficult part in this is that if you don't have a sexual partner, or you have a partner who isn't interested in sex, this is where it's really easy to fall into the trap of going and getting your needs met illegitimately. So, for example, let's say it's not food, it's food instead of porn, right? And I'm in this environment where there's no good nutrition around me. The only thing that's available is junk food. Well, guess what? I'm probably going to give in to that. So you have to set yourself up first of all and put yourself in a healthy environment. So if you're in a relationship with somebody who isn't sexual with you, problem there, you need to get that solved. That's a whole nother podcast. If you're not in relationship with somebody and you want to get your sexual needs met, then there's legitimate ways to do that. But it all comes down to intimacy. So the benefit for me is I feel connected with someone. I feel safe. I feel like, there's often times where, I'm working, I'm like, I could look at some porn and jerk off. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? My hot wife's coming home tonight. I'll just approach her. And I've approached her enough times to know that she's not going to reject me because I have a willing partner. So that's a big deal, I think, for guys, is you have to get some type of outlet and find a legitimate way for what sex is about, which is connection, which is easier said than done, which is why I think it's such a complicated issue.
Yeah. And in addition to the connection with your partner, I think you will get back energy that you've been giving to porn. You're going to get back time, and you're going to get back time that you can connect with other people in your life. I mean, that was something that I realized too, is that, that's time I could connect with friends or my son, family members, or to my work, things that actually have meaning in my life. Yeah, so those are things that I remind myself routinely. Faisal, you look like you were going to say something.
No, I was just, agreeing with Chuck as well. I love, what you said about, you need to have someone in your life that has that, appreciation for one, sexual compatibility as well, because there are a lot of guys that, who have the dead bedroom. They really struggle with that. And also they don't always know how to approach, sex and sensuality as well. They did from a very primal guy, way of doing it. They don't build up, they don't really warm a woman up. They don't really, have that sensual side to it, which is what porn takes away from guys, because it's just, like, for example, I tell my clients, all the guys I work with, first thing to do is read romance novels and erotic novels, right? For when guys watching porn or something like that, he doesn't want to watch the build up, just want to get straight to the action point. Whereas the women, they want the whole build up. That's where the whole sensuality is. And that's what robs men, that's what porn robs men, is that the emotional seduction, the intellectual seduction, the energetic seduction. They just go straight towards the physical. And I think that's where a lot of guys miss out, because that's what we primarily want. But a high conscious requires a lot more than that.
When you're using porn, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to practice sexual skills with a partner, and you're not giving yourself chances to ask for what you want in sex. With porn, there's the instant gratification, but navigating getting what you want with a sexual partner takes skills. It takes assertiveness, and those are hard for nice guys. They're hard for many people, but you have to practice with another person. All right, that's a great talk, guys. I think we could probably do a couple more episodes just on the porn topic. So thanks everybody for being a part of the Nice Guy Show. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to subscribe there as well. If you like this podcast, check out another one we did. It's called Addicted to Comfort. It's episode 20. Thank you, Chuck and Faisal, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show with certified Nice Guy recovery coaches Ari Graff, Chuck Chapman, and Faisal Kokar. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can listen to our latest episodes, and visit us on www.theniceguyShow.com. If you have any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email at support@theniceguyShow.com. Thanks for listening.